Hello again, Chris Lee of Southeastern 16, joined by Alfred Esmond. Alfred, we've got the finals of the SEC tournament in front of us tomorrow. And in case you didn't notice, that has been moved up to noon. So we're going to do that as a public service announcement. And in it are Vanderbilt and Ole Miss. Congratulations to both those teams. They are headed to the SEC tournament final, where we should have an interesting day tomorrow with dodging weather and pitching matchups. Boy, Ole Miss continue to get impressed more and more by the depth of the pitching staff, which I think is getting better as we go. And speaking of which, how about Vanderbilt's bullpen today? Connor Fennell was lights out again, 3 innings, 32 pitches. And my goodness, Cody Bowker was terrific. Vanderbilt just a complete game today. I don't think they had an extra base hit, but they put pressure on Tennessee's defense all day. Runs are scarce in Hoover for sure. Love this kind of ball. Love seeing teams really have to earn home runs and things like that, and seeing guys get to pitch and, not give up cheap home runs and all those kind of things. So I like the style of ball. We've got those games to talk about. We've got hosting and national seeding implications, and to be 100% honest, I've been spending most of the last couple hours working on that with an eye on the game too. All right, I've wasted a lot of words here. Your thoughts on what you saw today, Alfred, and thank you for joining us.
Of course. Glad to be back for a little bit. It's been a while. Man, start buying stock in Ole Miss. Win over a desperate Florida team, win over Arkansas, now a win over LSU. Those are good wins in Hoover, very good ones. And now they're on the footsteps of an SEC title if they beat Vanderbilt tomorrow. Shout out to the Rebels. Great effort pitching today. Gave up just 2 hits to that LSU lineup and shut them out. I get it. Ole Miss's offense themselves wasn't as great. That's because, Noot threw a pretty good game, I thought, for LSU. But, man, Ole Miss had just enough, and the pitching was great enough to get it done. Start buying stock in the Rebels. And I just got a little Twitter notification on a post I made. Comment said, Vanderbilt's a runaway train right now. And I fully agree. They completely dismantled Tennessee. The Vols did not look like they wanted to be there today, to be quite honest. A rough outing for them after 2 good wins they had in Hoover. Tegan Coons could only go an inning in a third. Same with Dylan Loy. Tanner Franklin did get the brunt of the middle of the game with 3 innings. He did give up 3 earned runs. But, yeah, I'm with you, Chris. The pitching from the Commodores, exceptional from Bowker and Fennell, especially Bowker. 9 strikeouts in 4 innings and no earned runs from him. Exceptional stuff. Hilarious moment when Fennell, stayed ready to pitch, and it took like 15 seconds for whatever Tennessee player it was to get into the box.
Andrew Fisher.
Yes, Andrew Fisher. Absolutely. Absolutely love these 2 teams, though, in the SEC title game. They are 2 teams trending in the right direction. And I guess, Chris, I have a question for you because I saw someone mention it. If Vanderbilt wins the SEC tournament tomorrow, are they the number 1 overall seed?
Man, I'm starting to wonder because they're number 1. They were number 1 in RPI going into today. Mm-hmm. Won that game. Obviously, it stayed number 1. Number 2 strength of schedule, I think. Let me just double check this here. They might have gone ahead of Auburn even. Auburn has been 1 all year. Still number 2. So there's that, but they're going to be. There were 1 in KPI, which is the strength of resume. Beating Tennessee and Hoover is not going to bump them from 1, so they're still going to be there. And you win a tournament title, and I get that Texas. I still think it's probably going to be Texas because of the regular season title that it won in the SEC. But Texas also. I mean, if you really want to dig in, and I'm going to pull this up to make sure I'm not making mistakes here in my analysis, but I know Vanderbilt did not play Missouri or South Carolina. It also didn't play LSU or Texas. So it didn't play the bottom 2 teams and arguably the top 2 teams. Arkansas would have a say in there, and Vanderbilt got swept by Arkansas, so there's that. But, yeah, Texas did play Missouri, and it did not play South Carolina. No, it did play South Carolina. Swept them. Mm-hmm. So if you want to dig in a little bit to this, Texas did play both of those teams, but it also played LSU and Arkansas and went 2-4 against those. So, yeah.
D1 baseball heading into today had Texas #1 overall still. Vanderbilt was right behind them at 2. I feel like at this point for them, and this is how it'd be for me, that's neck and neck. I mean, it really is neck and neck. So tomorrow's going to be huge. If I'm a Texas fan, I don't know if we have any of them in here right now, but if you guys are watching, I would say you're an Ole Miss fan tomorrow for safety reasons for your #1 overall seed if you want that. So just to be sure, Texas can still end up, even if Vanderbilt wins the SEC tournament. However, maybe that early SEC tournament exit for Texas comes back to bite them a little bit. We shall see. But if I'm a Texas fan, I'm sitting there like, hotty toddy heading into tomorrow's game.
Yeah, the difference between Texas and Vanderbilt is basically this. Texas right now has got 4 fewer losses and 1 more win.
Mm-hmm.
And Vanderbilt is 17-14 in quad 1. Texas is 17-11 in quad 1. So Texas better there. Vanderbilt 11-1 in quad 2. Texas 7-0. You could debate which is the better record. Texas gets it on percentage, but Vanderbilt played 13 quad 2 games, or 12 versus Texas's 7. Quad 3, Vanderbilt was 3-0. Texas was 7-0. So Texas got a couple more wins there against quad 3 than Vanderbilt. So that makes up some of it. And quad 1, Vanderbilt 10-1, Texas 11-1, Texas 4 in the RPI, Vanderbilt 1. So my guess is the committee is just going to lock in the regular season title for the Longhorns. And remember, Texas pitched Ethan Walker, a walk-on, against Tennessee. So you could say Texas maybe had it locked in at that point, and teams treat the tournament differently. I don't know how the committee decides it. I think that's the information, and it just depends on what they value. But I think Vanderbilt's got a really good case. I mean, goodness, and if you're watching baseball right now and going, how are they playing?
Best team in the country.
Vanderbilt's scored 16 runs and given up 1 in Hoover against an Oklahoma team that's going to be a 2 seed and a Tennessee team that I think is going to host.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think they're playing the best baseball out of anyone right now, in my opinion, who's still playing. Now, there's teams that are out that are going to be playing really good baseball in the NCAA tournament. But as far as who's still in conference tournaments right now, they're the best one in the country.
Yeah, I mean, the other team is Arkansas, which did sweep Vanderbilt. And I had Arkansas ahead of Vanderbilt the whole time because of that. But at some point, the metrics just become so loud. I mean, Vanderbilt now is 28-15 in quads 1 and 2. So it played 57 games, and only 14 of them came against quad 3 and 4, and 3 of those came against quad 3.
Right.
I mean, it was playing teams basically every weekend that were going to the NCAA tournament. I'm going to click on their team sheet for just a little bit to see, because sometimes these numbers shift around overnight, and I want to see if there's anything there, like if there could be a big thing where teams slide out of a quad, and that makes shifts the resume a little bit for better or worse.
Right.
I'm not seeing much immediately. Yeah, I mean, pick your preference there, but I think right now it feels like that's the top 2 seeds.
Yeah, I did too. I'm right there with you on it. I just think because of what D1 said is Texas, Vandy, Arkansas. I think Vandy has locked in top 2 just because they're in this title game. I really do think that that's the case here, and it's hard for me to say they're not #1 if they go on and win the SEC tournament title. I know, Jared Jones, you do bring up a good point, but what that tells me, and actually I wanted that comment clicked up, what that tells me is Jim Schlossnagle in Texas decided to make their bed and lay in it, and Vanderbilt is starting to, build upon getting to the #1 seed, while Texas is kind of sitting up there saying, come and get it. So
yeah,
that's how do you understand what I said there? That's kind of how I view it. It's like Vanderbilt is kind of reaching out, trying to grab it away from Texas, who's sitting there, wanting teams to come and get it from them. It's tight. Yeah. It's tight. I don't know which way the committee will go with it if Vanderbilt ends up winning it.
Yeah, and here's one thing, too, we never mentioned. Texas played without Max Blue.
Yeah.
For most of the year. So if you say, hey, it's a tie, now you got your best hitter back, that's probably an easy way to break it. I think it'll be Texas 1 and Vanderbilt 2, but Vanderbilt has done enough. And who knows? I don't know if tomorrow would budge the needle beating Ole Miss, especially if it's very decisive. But we'll see. It just what does the committee looking for? What's it want to see? And NASCAR's is right. The Arkansas sweep was early in the season. Vanderbilt held a players-only meeting after Game 2 of that Oklahoma series, which was a disaster the first 2 games. It's been a different team. And also, I always say this with Vanderbilt, look at that exam calendar. When exams stop, that's when those guys play better. and look how it's gone.
Right. Jared, regular season has to matter, not a single elimination tournament. Yes, unless Vanderbilt wins it.
Yeah, well, and I lean that way too. I do think Texas is the right answer here, but go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Alfred.
No, that's my answer to that is yes, unless Vanderbilt wins it. Then it becomes a thing to look at.
Yeah. I mean, and right now, my goodness, Cody Bowker had kind of been the weak link to that rotation. And I get that, like, playing in Hoover really helps you out. Like, Gavin Keelan just mashed one against him today, 108 to right center. Any other ballpark but Hoover, it's out. Now, of course, you can pitch a little differently in that park too, knowing that. But Bowker's fastball was unbelievable today. Yeah. Just a four-seamer that Tennessee couldn't handle. And then they went to Connor Fennell, which I was a little surprised, but that might have been Tim Corbin trying to get the run rule there and saying, hey, I bring this guy in. We'll get him a little revenge against Tennessee where he didn't pitch well and see how it goes from there. And then, like, Vanderbilt's got, goodness, they've got Fennell could probably come back if he had to. They've got Austin Nye available, who started last weekend. Alex Kranzer, Ethan McIlvain, Brendan Cyber, Miller Green, Luke Guff, Tommy O'Rourke, Levi Huseman, England Bryan, and even some more guys after that. So I don't think that they, that was probably, hey, let's get this thing done and over quickly, and Connor Fennell's your guy to do it. And at this point, I think they've got enough left that I'm not going to say it doesn't matter. You'd rather have Connor Fennell than not, but I can sort of understand it.
Yeah, I can too. I mean, I don't think it'd be I would be shocked if it's like some insane lengthy start, but because he pitched 32 pitches. So that's a little bit of gas out of the tank, but he could still open a game well enough for tomorrow if needed. I have it's going to be a great game. Like I have full confidence in either team really to win it. I do kind of lean Vandy just because of I think they're playing the best out of anyone right now. Yeah. Ole Miss proved me wrong, as I say that, but that's where I lean, especially if Fennell ends up kind of opening the game tomorrow to start it.
Yeah, and the bottom of their order is really hitting right now. Mm-hmm. Like Mike Mancini and those guys, Rustin Rigdon was really good for him. Riley Nelson, I think, is the most underrated player in the league. That guy hits anything and everything. Lefties, righties, Hawkins Field, North Pole, the moon, just doesn't matter. That kid can hit.
It's just a lot of stepping up too when other players don't necessarily do so. I mean, you look at what happened today. Jonathan Vastine did get a hit in, so did Brody Johnson, but it was out of 6 combined at bats between the two of them. So then it was just Mancini, Nelson, and Rigdon really picking that up and getting the load in, which is nice to see from Vanderbilt in a big 10-0 win over Tennessee. So your rival. So that's huge. And that's another reason why I like them is just how many of those guys can step up in big situations. And man, I can't wait to watch them in the tournament. It seems like, Chris, that might be too early, so I apologize. It seems like this is, an older looking Vandy team that you saw prior to COVID, maybe one of those.
Yeah, it feels.
That's the trajectory. I feel like right now.
They haven't had a team like this. Like their stars were not guys that were like dodging the draft.
Right.
No, they have plenty of those guys on the roster, but Nelson and Fennell were like not wanted by much of anybody, and that's their best pitcher and best hitter. Now again, they have plenty of guys that were. J.D. Thompson's probably going to be a second rounder, I'd guess. I think. It's going to be interesting to see next year where Humphrey goes and in a couple years Brody Johnson. I think they've got first rounders on this roster. but they're just not the guys we're talking about a lot of times when they're winning games.
Right. Exactly.
So let's talk Ole Miss for a minute. Boy, how about the Rebels pitching? I've been kind of watching sneakily their bullpen and their arms after Elliott have just kind of been getting better. We've known Mason Morris has been good for a while, but McCausland, Hooks, some of those guys have been pitching really well. Connor Spencer's kind of a roller coaster ride, but he's pretty effective when it's really on.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, it was a little bit of both in the ninth, but he got out of it fine. And again, forgiving ballpark helps you a little bit. But hey, how about our introduction to Cade Townsend? I don't know that we talked about once on this show until he got announced that he's got the ball. That kid was really good today.
Phenomenal. Grinding start. 4 2/3, 75 pitches over the course of that stretch. Struck out 3, gave up only 2 hits, and did not allow an earned run. No Ole Miss pitchers today allowed earned runs. I think it was a great just combined effort amongst the 4 guys that were out there for the Rebels today. Gunnar Dennis went 2 1/3, delivered some great stuff. 2 strikeouts, 30 pitches over that stretch, which is relatively efficient, I think. Will McCausland, who has always been a go-to for them out of the bullpen, was great as well. And then, of course, Connor Spencer came in to close the game out. And, yeah, it got a little dicey, and the LSU fans, got on their feet and started making some noise. And you were like, oh, it might happen. It might happen again. Because they did similar stuff to this last year, LSU, where they pulled off, these walk-offs and insane endings and everything. And it just didn't quite happen. It was a big fly out to center to end the game. But, yeah. The story of the pitching staffs today, Ole Miss's as well. Just great group effort from the 4 guys that were out there, and an absolute grind for Mr. Townsend. So extremely impressed with them. Only gave up 2 hits all day, and they both came from Townsend. So the 3 guys after him did not give up hits against a really good LSU lineup. Great stuff from the Rebels. This is now the teams they've beaten, Chris and Hoover, I think, are phenomenal. Them, Arkansas, and then desperate Florida, which is very dangerous. So yeah, big ups to Ole Miss. This has been a successful tournament, even if you don't come out on top tomorrow. But, of course, they're looking to do so.
Well, and they did it without Ryan Moorman today after that pileup in right center yesterday, which was just a nasty collision. So yeah. I'm kind of wondering, is there a concussion issue or something that's lingering that could keep him out for the regional? You certainly hope not. So there's that. But I think if you're Ole Miss, you've got to love the way this weekend went. Your pitching, which was the question, has been tremendous. Again, ballpark definitely helps, but you've seen some teams when they ran out of pitching, it got ugly at times earlier in the week. So hats off to Ole Miss and that staff. Mike Bianco went and got him a pitching coach in the offseason. That feels like that's starting to pay dividends. So I think the only negative for Ole Miss was just the Moorman injury. But Hayden Federico is a fine bench player, stepped in and played in the outfield today. Austin Foley continues to hit for them and just be a real pick-me-upper. They got power, over that order. They've got, 103 home runs, 104 now? So, yeah I think Ole Miss has got a lot going for it. Now, look, if I'm LSU, I'm not feeling awful about the way my week went, right? I guess you could say maybe they could throw in Anthony Eyanson, but hey, if you're not scoring runs, it's probably not going to matter. But yeah. I look at it this way. Today they threw Jayden Noot. We've talked about him. He's a very talented kid, just needs some innings, which were lacking in 23 and 24 because he was hurt the whole time or most of it. Chase Shores comes in today, throws 102, not pitches, but that's the reading on the gun. Was wild. That kind of goes with the territory, but showed you why he is a pro arm. And then Jacob Mayers, who hasn't thrown a lot, but was tremendous last year at Nicholls State, and also a guy that's probably going to go top 10 rounds, I would think, this year. Baseball America had him in the top 300. So I think if you're LSU, I guess 2 hits is problematic. There's been a lot of talk about LSU's lineup. Still think there's more talent at the top. Curiel and Jones have kind of been in a slump. At least Curiel has. And Jones, I know, didn't hit as well in the league. But, Jake Brown, Fry, Milam, Dickinson. There's a lot of guys in here that can hit. And if you got guys slumping in a regional, Jay Johnson's got pieces on the bench that can help too. So I think even for LSU, it was a disappointing outcome today, but I think you saw some guys throw some innings that you might need in a regional or in Omaha, and I think that's a positive. I don't think this was a bad tournament for LSU by any stretch.
I think it was good for their pitching. I like what they saw from pitching for them, which was exceptional again today. Absolutely love Jayden Noot. He was the story for me for that team. Chase Shores did okay stuff too. He did walk some guys, but also had 3 strikeouts to pair with it. But Jayden Noot, man, 7 strikeouts in the 4 innings and just 1 earned run to his name. That's really good to see. LA Mom 2020 said it. The 4 runs against A&M and then the no runs and 2 hits today are slightly concerning. I think that's just something to look at. I'd really, maybe this was a week for them to get the rust off offensively and just kind of eat the punches that they took. The pitching was good enough for them to get that A&M win in. Obviously, they needed some form of offense today because the pitching was good enough for them to win a day too, Chris, right? I mean, they gave up 2 runs all game. That's really that's well enough for LSU to get it done. I wouldn't be too, upset about it though. If I'm a Tiger fan, I mean, you're going to be in Alex Box Stadium come the NCAA tournament. You're going to have your chances. This offense has shown that they are good enough at times. I would think of it as using this week to just kind of shake off any, not so good offensive qualities and rust to get yourself ready for the NCAA tournament. But I do like what people are saying though about the offense. I do think it was a little bit of a concern this week. Pitching though, fabulous. I'm really excited if I'm an LSU fan about the pitching.
Now, let's talk about both those teams. Ole Miss has now jumped LSU in the RPI, which didn't have that on the bingo card coming into the week. I did say I was a little worried about LSU's RPI and its KPI. LSU's now down to 11, which, again, my issue with LSU is I was afraid, and I think LSU is a slam dunk top 8 team, right? If I'm picking the field, I'm putting them there.
Right.
But the committee now has reasons to move them out of the top 8. Clemson is going on a heater and past LSU and RPI. Coastal Carolina is ahead. Non-conference strength of schedule, if they look at that could be a detriment, 222. I would still put LSU in the top 8. Lower end of the top 8 probably, because I think at some point you're doing a disservice to the teams they're going to draw in a super. Although maybe not as much if they're on the road, but you know what I mean. You don't want to. One thing I've been watching is what if Tennessee draws a 15 or a 16? Does that feel like a reward for the number 1 overall or number 2 team? Doesn't to me. So I think you have to kind of balance those things. I think LSU, although I don't know, man, here's the problem. I've had 6 of the top 8 national seeds now being from the SEC. And I think 19 and 11 in the league is going to trump that and get to the quarterfinals. And again, if you watch them, you know how much talent LSU's got.
Right.
But there is stuff, if the NCAA if the committee wants to do it, LSU has left them just enough now.
I think so. And the good news for them, I am looking at, just so everyone knows, D1s heading into today, seed-wise. They had LSU 5th, the 5th national seed. Behind them in order was Georgia, Auburn, and Oregon. Georgia got knocked out early. Auburn got knocked out early. And Oregon lost to Nebraska today in the Big Ten tournament, which is a detriment to them. And honestly, they're going to host, but it's a detriment to their national seed case. So LSU has a buffer there to work with because they did pick up a conference tournament win, whereas Georgia didn't, and then Auburn did not. So that helps. I think that helps them a ton. So I think they're going to end up in the top 8. The teams, if you go beyond the 8 that they had, 9 was, let's see, it's right down here. Oregon State. I don't think that's going to affect LSU at all. Coastal Carolina is in the Sun Belt title. I would be shocked if Coastal gets a national seed, although maybe it's slightly possible now. But they're not going to pass LSU by any means. So LSU fans, I think you are safe for a national seed just because of what teams that are like slightly around or behind you did in their conference tournaments.
Yeah, here's how I've got it ranked at the moment. I've got it Texas, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, North Carolina. That's your top 4. 5 to 8, Georgia, Auburn, LSU, Clemson. The next 4, Coastal Carolina, Florida State. I knocked Oregon down. Oregon got beat by Nebraska. And again, the numbers RPI wise, 18, KPI 12. That is not a 2 hosting weekend team that's got 12 losses in quad 3 and 4. And I know quad 3, Oregon had a weird quad 3. They played a lot of good teams, and so 22 and 8 is just the weirdest looking thing I've ever seen in quad 3. Like, you rarely have that many games there. And they were 9-1 quad 1, 3-1 quad 2. So that's really good. But I don't know. I think it's hard for me to put Oregon top 8 nationally, and then hard for me to drop LSU out of there. Yeah, again, I say the metrics can work against them, but at some point those things matter, but so does common sense. And that's a top 8 team. So I go Coastal 9, followed by Florida State, Oregon, Oregon State. I've got Tennessee 13. I've got Ole Miss at 14. Metrically, they're almost the same. Tennessee did take 2 or 3 from them in Oxford, although it's been a minute. Ole Miss played much better late, had a tougher strength of schedule, had a tougher non-conference strength of schedule, 19 and 14 in quad 1. So pick your poison. Ole Miss is definitely playing better. I could see Ole Miss jumping Tennessee, assuming Tennessee gets in. Then I went TCU is 15 and UCLA is 16. I'm not really sold on UCLA, but it does have an RPI in that range. It's out west. And it did share the Big Ten with Oregon. Behind that, I've got Georgia Tech, Dallas Baptist, Southern Miss, and Irvine. I think those are probably the only 4 teams left that might have a say in the hosting discussion, with apologies to Alabama, which I think probably deserves to be there, but it's probably going to get, discriminated on by virtue of being the 9th team in the league. Georgia Tech lost in the quarterfinals today, and it did win the ACC, but a lot of that was against the bottom end of the conference. Dallas Baptist got beat today in the conference tournament and has got to, beat either, I think, Jacksonville State, Western Kentucky, or Louisiana Tech, and I think it's got to win maybe 3, 2. So Dallas Baptist took a hit today. I thought, well, if they win Conference USA and they win the conference tournament, then maybe. But it looks like Western Kentucky is kind of poised to win that event at this point. Southern Miss and Coastal Carolina. Southern Miss could be an interesting one. They play today, and then they can play for the championship. And I'll check scores in just a minute. But I just don't see how you could put Southern Miss in over Ole Miss, because I know that was a debate, and I really don't see it over Tennessee either. So to me, really, I think 1 to 14 are all in. Some might debate Tennessee. So it's probably TCU, UCLA, Georgia Tech, Dallas Baptist, Southern Miss, and maybe Irvine, but I doubt it for that last spot, or those last 2 spots.
The thing that trips me up right now thinking about it is, if Southern Miss wins the Sun Belt tournament, what do you do with them then? That would be a rough break for them to win their tournament and then be a 2. You know what I mean? But then you want to. I don't think you move Coastal out to a 2 either. I think they also have to host.
Coastal's going to host, yeah.
Right. So that's where it would get tricky. Let's hope we don't get to that, because then I'm going to be taking ibuprofen all evening trying to figure that one out.
Boy, no joke.
Yeah. The other team to keep an eye on for everyone outside the SEC, TCU, playing for a Big 12 title today. They're on the come up. They've pretty much played themselves into the hosting discussion, at least in Arlington. They're quad 1. I know they don't play in the SEC, but their quad 1 is great. Like, I think one of the better ones, right, Chris, in the country. So I would imagine TCU.
One of the better
quad 1 records.
No, I think they're 7-7. It's 8-7. It's okay. Quad 2, they're 14 and 8. So combine those, 22 and 15. I mean, that says hosting. The RPI says hosting. The KPI says hosting. Not by much, but I feel like Texas Christian, and they play Arizona, I think, tonight for the Big 12. So I think you win that thing, and TCU probably puts a bow on it.
Yeah, that's what I say too, at least.
Yeah. And I think UCLA's one to watch. UCLA's got Iowa, which is kind of a weird team. And I'm going to go to the scoreboard and see what we've got here, just to see if anything is broken or, progressed since we started talking about all this of note.
Caleb, what are you referencing?
Okay, Coastal Carolina's beaten Marshall, so I think that means Coastal and Southern Miss play for the Sun Belt tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay. What else have we got going on? Oh, I need to see the whole thing.
Good question, Mike. I think for Vandy, I wouldn't be shocked at Fennell opening it. At least I don't think it'd be a lengthy start, but I think he could come back out there and pitch an inning or two to get them started after 32-ish pitches today. Chris, Ole Miss.
I don't think they'll open Fennell. I think they'll go Austin Nye, and it didn't go well last week. But Nye is a kid that's, and I'm looking at the mock drafts. Nye is already getting mid-first round love 2 years from now, and I think it's deserved. He would have probably gone out of high school to the pros if he hadn't been hurt his whole senior year, didn't pitch. So I think in last week I was at that game. The wind was going out, and there were some balls hit hard off him, but the wind wasn't helping him either. I think they will give him a second chance. I don't know this, but my guess is they give him a second chance tomorrow. And again, they got 10 guys they can use, so they may have him on a really short leash tomorrow. But my guess is he gets the ball. I mean, could be any number of people, but that's my guess if I had to make one.
And then Adam said, Ole Miss bullpen game could be Hooks or Calhoun to start. You guys are smart, by the way. So a lot of y'all are saying Nye too. You are a smart audience. No Ole
Miss, let's see. Ole Miss threw – McCausland only threw 14. Spencer only threw 20. Dennis is through 30. And Dennis has been a starter before, so I'm guessing that's one that could come back if you had to. Mike Bianco may not want to do that. And then I don't remember the game before who they used.
Sven, I'm with you. Southern Miss winning the Sun Belt would throw a wrench in things a little.
Yeah. Yeah, it would.
It would. I mean, now that I think about it, Fennell could come out of the pen by highlight. Oh, okay. We'll see. I could be wrong. That's what I would do.
I mean, Fennell doesn't throw that hard, so it's an option, but I think you want to see what other guys can do tomorrow.
Right. Let's see where D1 had Southern Miss, because now I'm interested in that. They have them as a 15 heading into today. And then Georgia Tech is a 16, although that's going to change, obviously.
Yeah, let me look at the scoreboard and see what's notable. Fresno State is up 9-1 on San Jose State in the Mountain West. I think if Fresno State wins that one, it takes the title. In that I think there's a game too if San Jose State wins. Somebody can check me on that. So that may be an auto that's about to settle. St. Mary's, if it hangs on against San Diego, I think it's got a game to play with. I think St. Mary's, if it wins and it's up 6-3 in the fifth, takes the West Coast. We've got North Carolina, Florida State scoreless. I would keep an eye on that one because that could Florida State, if it wins this thing, I think could climb into the national in the top 8. Yeah.
Yeah.
North Dakota State up 2-0 on Oral Roberts in the third. I think if North Dakota State wins that one, it takes it because I think it's got a game to play with. Connecticut and Creighton, keep an eye on that one because that could be the case where the winner gets the auto bid and the loser might or might not go home. I think if it's Connecticut, they're probably in. Creighton, maybe. Well, I think my guess is both teams get in, but that's one to keep an eye on. And let's see. Oh, Northeastern's down to Wilmington 3-0 in the second, but Northeastern, I think, has got a game to play with there, right?
Yeah.
But if that goes wrong, that's a bid steal. Speaking of bid steals, I think we've only had one so far, and that was in the American, where Tulane, ECU, and South Florida, the only three left. UTSA won the regular season title, is probably going to be a 2. My guess is going to Texas, but I thought UTSA would win that tournament. UTSA is going to get a large bid anyway. Nobody else was going to get that from league. So there's, as far as I remember, I think that's the only definite bid steal in the book so far.
Houston Christian in the Southland, is that one or no?
Well, I don't think so because I don't think anybody else from the league is getting in.
Okay.
But Sela's got the committee chair.
Right.
So you never know. I mean,
I see. Yeah, never. I don't think that'll happen. You're right. Never mind. But that's just
but
that's
I mean, nobody expected them to win it. Like, it was kind of like, okay, UTRGV or SELA is going to win this thing.
Yeah.
And they're both like, they were both in at large range, but they both played so poorly in the tournament. Not only did they not win it, but they also got enough damage done to the RPI that I don't think they're viable at large candidates,
Right.
other outside of committee chicanery. Oh, UCLA's beating Iowa now. So I will not get an at-large, which I didn't think would anyway. And I think UCLA plays either Penn State or Nebraska tomorrow. I'm not sure which. And I think if UCLA wins that, that's probably going to cement one of those hosting spots. Again, I'm not crazy about the resume, but it's West Coast, RPI, KPI, both top 15. And then UCLA would have a share of the regular season title and also the tournament title if it goes down like that. Coastal beat Marshall today and Southern. So yeah, I think it's Coastal and Southern Miss. And check and see if that's a 2-game scenario or if that's just winner take all tomorrow, because I don't remember.
I will. Southern Miss beat Troy. That's a valuable opponent game that they had to get the title.
Yeah.
I don't know. How much does that damage Troy?
I think Troy's out, but it's close.
Wow. Yeah. That would not be fun if you're a Troy Trojan.
No, they had such a great season, won every weekend series to the last weekend of the year, and won some games in the tournament too.
Right.
Okay. Go ahead.
Winner take all. Okay. Tomorrow at 1 Central.
So if the committee's looking for something for Southern Miss, that could be it. Coastal's getting a national seat anyway. That could get Coastal top 8, potentially. We'll see. Okay, Binghamton beat Albany in the America East. Let me see. I think that wins Binghamton the American East.
Jacob, we say yes. Ole Miss at least for sure hosts.
Yeah, I don't know how. Ole Miss has got 19 quad 1 wins.
I don't know how they won it.
And one loss between quad 3 and 4. I mean, show me a world in which that is not a host.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if there's anything else of note here. I think Western Kentucky is probably going to win Conference USA, but has probably made itself. I mean, it's continued to help its at-large case for sure.
Right.
Okay, Fairfield won. Fairfield is going to be probably the toughest of the 4 seeds. I'm trying to remember if they've got to take one more, but that's like a 4 seed that you might not want in your region. Let me see that one. Yeah, they're in the driver's seat there. I think they didn't clinch it, but some other teams have got to win. And Toledo beat Ball State today.
Right.
In the MAC, which I think that's another winner take all scenario between them and whoever, which I think is Miami now.
I'm looking at other 4s, see who would be tough. I don't know about Wright State this year. D1 had them going to Baton Rouge. They are just always in the tournament no matter what. So
I think Milwaukee's going to win that one. They've got Wright State's going to have to beat them twice.
Right. Rest in peace, Purdue Fort Wayne, by the way. I don't know if anyone heard about that. Very sad.
What?
No more baseball.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah. Budget cuts and baseball and softball were the ones to go.
I think you're going to be seeing that a lot with the new landscape of college athletics.
No more mastodons.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, I mean, Adele, hey, that included us. I mean, I thought they had some rebuilding to do. They lost their best pitcher, their best hitter. The guys that they brought in the portal, I thought were nice players. I didn't know if they would be as good as what we saw. And then you had Austin Foley just out of nowhere. Stuff like that.
I'm with you. I think it started at the beginning of the year and then really throughout the year a lot with that outfield transfer group just working out. It just worked out and they kind of just took off from there. And, there was dips in the roller coaster of the season, obviously, but that here they are on the footsteps of winning an SEC tournament title. So there you have it.
Yeah. Ole Miss, Dallas Baptist, Mississippi State. Now that they won't put two SEC teams in the same regional. I don't think they can, but I do think. In fact, I was putting this together. I'm not done, but I'll just give you a little sneak peek at what I've got. And I was going like I was doing driving distances and everything because they're always going to lean that. I think Texas. My guess is they get UTSA as the 2 and a throwaway 4 seed. I think Houston Christian was close, but I'm guessing they send them to TCU or Dallas Baptist. I've still got TCU. Vanderbilt, this is what I'm thinking for Vandy. Louisville, Cincinnati, Eastern Illinois. All teams within driving distance. There were not a lot of 2 seeds within driving distance of Nashville. And remember, that's important. Plus, Louisville, I think, is a low 2. Cincinnati's a high 3. And Eastern Illinois, they're an okay 4, but close within driving distance.
Right.
So I've got that. I've got Florida going to Clemson.
Did it last year. Do it again.
Yeah. Was that the regional or was that the super?
It was a super, but they've been there before. So
okay. Well, here's the issue. I'm leaning driving distance, and I was like, I don't think have they ever matched Florida and Florida State up in a regional?
I don't think
they have.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Alabama was close enough to Florida State that I put them there. I was like, I'm looking for anywhere I can send Florida that's not Florida State. And there weren't, let me see how many options there are there.
You're not like D1, Chris. They are sending people all over the place. Have you seen this? UCLA is going to Clemson as the 2 heading into today.
Yeah, I mean, that could happen.
Right. Cincinnati, not far drive.
Yeah, there's nowhere that UCLA can bust to.
Right. That is true.
One thing I try to do is not, if I can help it, even if plane trip, if you've got teams on the West Coast, keep them on that time zone. I mean, traveling's enough without having to change time zones and a couple of them or 3 of them in particular. What was I looking up here? Oh, places that Florida could go that don't require a plane trip for the NCAA.
Atlanta.
Atlanta's
that won't happen.
But I don't think Georgia Tech's getting in anymore.
Yeah,
so it's them and Florida State. So I was like, well, I got to put them somewhere. And I thought, well, I could send them out west, but that just didn't seem right either.
Someone said Coastal to Conway.
Who did I have? Can they go to Conway?
Florida? I don't see why not. I think that'd be maybe a good choice.
Let me see how far that is. Google that one for me. That's 412. And I think the mark is 400 where the NCAA has to bust them.
Yeah.
So 412, I mean, may not matter if it's a little bit over. No, look, maybe if I pinpoint campus to campus, I don't know if they're, Coastal's campus is on the south end of town and Florida's is on the north.
Right.
Maybe we dive in a little more. Let's do that just for fun. Driving distance, Florida. Nah, let's not. I don't want to bore everybody. But you can look that up on your own to see if that's an option.
Right.
So, yeah, there's that. I've got other stuff I was looking at with the SEC. I have Georgia Tech going to Auburn by virtue of geography. I also was sending Western Kentucky there as a 3, which that's a tough regional for Auburn.
That's really tough.
I might try to back out of that a little bit. I had Duke going to Georgia. I had NC State going to Coastal. The other thing that makes this difficult is you got so many ACC and SEC teams.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of places in the top, that they just can't go because it's interconference. Had Arkansas with Kansas. I've done a few versions of this. I always seem to settle on Oklahoma, going to Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And what I've drawn up for Tennessee right now is Wake Forest, East Tennessee State, and Murray State.
Oh, I kind of like that if I'm a Tennessee fan.
ETSU did beat them.
Yeah. Murray State's
And
a good draw, I think. Wake Forest, what do they do in the ACC tournament? I'll look that up.
I think they might have won one, but they didn't make it to the quarterfinals. And I had Southern Miss going to Ole Miss.
Okay. That's been the kind of what's going to happen there. I feel like, right, is Ole Miss going to Hattiesburg or vice versa, and it's kind of, to me, trending Southern Miss to Oxford, unless, again, if Southern Miss wins the Sun Belt, then that's a real big problem, because then I think you have a really hard time keeping Southern Miss out of a hosting spot. But
maybe, Mike, I looked up the same thing too. I could have sworn those were supers, and they got it wrong, but somebody looked that up for me.
Was that
because if what's that?
Oh no, that was way too. Oh, I don't know. Was that Buster Posey, or am I getting my years mixed up?
2010 would have been. Let me think.
He was with the Giants then, I think.
No, by 2010, Buster Posey was out of FSU.
Yeah,
and 2000 would have been too early. So yeah, I fact checked that one because I thought I looked that one up, and I thought AI might have gotten that wrong when I dug in, but I'm not sure. And Wes is right. Coastal's got some dudes in the rotation.
Yeah,
Buster was earlier. He's right.
Okay. Thank you, Wes.
I remember going down to Florida State in 2010, and they were still talking about Buster like he was a god.
Oh my, yeah. That's like the one guy I could think of college baseball wise when I was super young was him, just because I'd hear his name mentioned a bunch.
Yeah.
Wake Forest, by the way, lost their first game to Cal because Cal kind of went on a weird
that's
run
right.
at the beginning. Yeah.
I thought about sending Duke to Tennessee because Tennessee got is going to be one of the bottom end hosts, I think, and Duke is probably a tougher draw. But when you started digging into who could go where, it became a little bit more of an issue. Like Duke can go, let's see. Duke could go, if you wanted to not fly them, could go to Georgia, could go to Coastal, could go to Tennessee. And NC State can go to Georgia. It can go to Coastal. It can go to Tennessee.
Yeah.
Which not surprising because Raleigh-Durham area, of course. So, of course, it's going to be the same. Wake can go to Georgia, Coastal, Tennessee, and it could have gone to West Virginia. But West Virginia, I would be floored at this point if West Virginia got a host.
I would too.
Who do I have Arkansas paired with in the Supers? I have them paired for now. Is that right? Yeah, with Ole Miss.
Oh.
I've got Texas paired with UCLA, Vanderbilt paired with TCU, Clemson and Coastal, LSU, Florida State, Georgia, Oregon State, Auburn, Oregon, and Arkansas, Ole Miss, and UNC and Tennessee. But there's still a lot that can happen. I mean, I think to me, TCU beats Arizona tomorrow, or is it today? I'm not sure which. I think it's tomorrow. Oh, it's tonight?
Yeah.
I think you can probably lock TCU in as a host.
Me too.
And let me see what else is out there.
What's up, Josh? Josh, Florida State, if they win this, I think they're a top 8, and they're definitely a top 8 if they win the ACC tournament. I'll say that right now.
Who do you bump, though?
For what? Oh, in the top 8?
Who do you bump out of the top 8?
If I look at D1's field, Oregon.
I think Oregon. I'd already bumped Oregon out.
Right. So who do you have left then at the tail end?
See, I think Vanderbilt. I think Texas, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, North Carolina, Georgia, Auburn are locks. I think for top 8, and then we're looking at LSU, Clemson, Coastal, Florida State, Oregon State. Oregon State is propped up by 6 RPI that I just don't get. looking at who it beat. But, you know, I mean, Oregon State honestly only beat 3 teams that I think are going to be in the field.
Right. Does Auburn's this might be a silly question. Does Auburn losing early affect them at all for a national seed if someone else plays into it? Or are they too strong metrically to have that happen?
They're 3 RPI, they're 5 KPI. Well, let me check RPI after
because when they
Florida
lost
games today.
Right. When they lost, that was the first thing that popped in my head about them was what if some team plays themselves into this national seed conversation and they look to Auburn like you lost early.
No, I mean, they're 15-12 quad 1, 5-2 quad 3, 7-1 quad 4, 11-3 quad 4. Swept LSU, took a series from Vandy, took a series on the road at Tennessee, took a series from Alabama, took 2 games from Georgia Tech, took a series at Kentucky, took a series from Mississippi State. In what world is that not a host and a top 8?
Okay.
Non-conference strength of schedule, 53. I mean, the only thing that they could really penalize Auburn for is 3 quad 4 losses because that's a lot for that territory, but feels like kind of a little thing to put on the scale with everything else Auburn's done.
Okay. I shouldn't be here after today's performance, but I'm here. I bleed. Don't worry. I think you locked up a host spot. That's really what matters in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I don't see how you can keep Tennessee out of hosting unless you're just trying to engineer something for Southern Miss, which somebody on the committee, I know it, and maybe that happens, or a Dallas Baptist, or you're going to give Georgia Tech something for winning the ACC regular season. But again, it was against, they avoided the big boys. I think Georgia Tech's a good team, but when I try to do this, I think you have to do some gymnastics not to have Tennessee hosting.
Exactly.
Which the committee could do. I'm not warranting any of this, but anything. Let's see. Yeah, well, Tennessee ran into some pitching today for sure.
Yeah.
And hit a couple. I mean, Keelan hit one that's getting out of any ballpark you play in this league, but that one today. And I don't know that it would have changed anything much, but it would have felt a little less hopeless at that point.
Maybe an emotional hangover too from a extra inning Texas win a little bit. I guess
maybe
that might be not a good excuse people want, but maybe.
Anything else of note? I'm going to try to get out before an hour because I've got dinner plans with the family. But yeah, any questions, comments? Who you got where? By the way, the last teams I've got in at large right now, if you were wondering, the last 8, I'm going from closest to the bubble to furthest from it. Virginia, Connecticut, Arizona State, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Southern Cal, Kentucky, Mississippi State.
Mm-hmm.
And then Cincinnati would be great. So I've got Mississippi State and Kentucky pretty comfortably in.
Yeah.
I've got Virginia getting the last at large. But I guess I just told you that, didn't I?
Kentucky, Mississippi State 3s, right? Or am I wrong? Okay.
Yeah, I've got the cutoff line for 2s and 3s. I've got Northeastern getting the last 2. And boy, I don't know that you want. They're 45-9, as you pointed out.
I don't want to play them. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Vanderbilt and the best looking team. I don't care if you're Texas at Dish Falk Field. You don't want to play them. They are 35-1 in their last 36 games. They are not losing games. It's because they have the best pitching in the country. And I think I told you this. I could be wording this a little wrong. 80% of the innings they've pitched during this stretch, they've thrown up zeros on the scoreboard.
Gosh,
it's phenomenal.
Crazy.
I mean, you're getting me all worked up, Chris. I love the Huskies.
You do. Mike Glavin's team.
Right.
Adele, Jay's got, I think, travel softball today. His daughter is a big time pitcher.
Yes.
That's going to play college ball one day. And I think he's her coach. And no, Jay doesn't drink. Jay's just
he's just juice.
He's just Jay. I don't know how else to put it. In our opinion, the most, all of them.
Good question. Let me read the question again so I get it right. Most underrated that could do some damage. Oh man, I don't know how underrated these teams are in my opinion. I think that is so hard.
I would Kentucky. I don't know what to think of Mississippi State, because there's times I think they could be an Omaha team, and then there's times they don't field or don't pitch out of the bullpen, and they look awful. But, right. I mean, I could see it. In Kentucky, man, I know Kentucky just cannot catch a break right now. Mm-hmm. But they can really put the ball in play. Ben Cleaver can shut you down. Nick McKay is capable of shutting you down. The bullpen's my concern, but they will really make you make plays. Really make you make plays. And you saw them. Tennessee found out. And I don't mean that directed at Tennessee, but Tennessee was, playing really well at the time. And Kentucky came to Knoxville and handled it. And I think Kentucky keeps its poise. It plays pretty well on the road. So I think that's one, too. Although I'm a little afraid Kentucky's going to get sent like to Oregon State or somewhere.
Yeah. I like what Michael Stack and Colton McFadden are saying. Florida. Look at last year. I mean,
yep.
You can't never do it. And that is a brilliant comment. He can get his team's attention in a hurry. So,
but I mean, is anybody sleeping on Florida though?
That's my thing from last year. But that's a good one to say. I would, if not Florida, I would apprehensively say Kentucky. My thing when you generally look at them, they've been so back and forth recently with weekend results. But you are right, the games have been close. But it's that back and forthness that just makes me apprehensive about them. But if they get a favorable draw, I mean, it will work out well for them because they've been tested, obviously.
Yeah, Josh says Russell will be their game 3 starter moving forward. I think that's the biggest thing Tennessee got out of the tournament was A.J. Russell looked terrific, and they stretched him out. And Tennessee and Phillips. Well, I mean, Phillips did have like a 6-inning at LSU, so there was that. But he feels more like a 4-inning guy and then hand it off to the bullpen.
Yeah.
But if Russell can give you more innings, you eat more out of your starters. Now, my problem is their bullpen has not looked good lately. Did not look good in Hoover. I mean, Russell's part of the bullpen, but I'm assuming he's going to be part of the rotation. And I think that's your issue. Like even Dylan Loy, who's been their best guy, has been, I feel like, ineffective when I've seen him lately.
You think?
If anyone wants to fact check me on that, then fine. Well, Arvidsson looked really good the other day, so he's one of them.
Do you think that's fluky though? Like that came out of nowhere. That what he did.
Arvidsson,
you can be honest. I think it's slightly.
No, I didn't. But well, here's what surprised me. Everybody talked about how that was such a pop-up performance from Arvidsson. I didn't really think that. I mean, here's the guy's numbers on the year. He's got a 42% strikeout rate. He's got a 2.2% home. Yes, he got a 2.2% home run rate, which is good in that park. And I do whip, except I put in hit batsman. He had a 126. I mean, that's a really good number. So to me, that was not out of the blue.
Yeah,
and that does include that appearance. I get it, but
right, okay, yeah, that's still. I would not have thought it was that high. Yeah. I mean, he hasn't. I don't think he's been like awful to watch, but that popped a little bit out of nowhere to me when he was doing that.
Yeah,
but
all right, 45 seconds. Let's get out of here. What have you got? Quick take on the way out.
Very good SEC championship tomorrow. Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, 2 teams that are hot as ever. Ole Miss with really good wins this week. Vanderbilt, I think, is playing the best baseball in the country with teams that are still playing in their conference tournament. Super excited for this matchup tomorrow. We're going to have a lot of hosts. We're going to have a lot to discuss, and I can't wait to do that.
Yeah, me either. Hey, thank you guys for watching. We'll be back with more content, I think, at some point tomorrow. Haven't set the schedule yet, but subscribe to the channel. That's free, enable your notifications. Get us on all your audio platforms. Leave us a review and join the membership tier if you don't mind, please. $3 a month. We'd appreciate it. For Alfred Esmond, I'm Chris Lee of Southeastern 16. God bless you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.